Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition, the Tuesday edition of Maximum Growth Live. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, CEO of FirmFlex Social Media Marketing for Lawyers, as well as managing partner of Ruane Attorneys, a civil rights and criminal defense firm in Connecticut. And joining me from his estate in Palau, where the wind whips slowly through the palm trees, is my good friend, Seth Price, way out in the Pacific, enjoying the pina coladas. How is it going down there, wherever you are, Seth? How are things?
It's moved from 55 to 60 as I sit here. So I'm pleased by the end of this podcast. Hopefully I have my sweatshirt off. Awesome. all is well. Kids are up bright and early, refusing to go to school. It's a beautiful day.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm filming right here with the green screen, so I don't know if you can hear, but my kids are already screaming, fighting over who gets to sit in a particular chair so they can do their remote learning. But I want to ask you a question. Seth, as everybody should know, Seth is the managing partner of Price Benowitz, which is a law firm in D.C. And today in D.C., it's not business as usual. I mean, Blue Shark as well is based in the D.C. area, but you've taken that pretty much all remote, right, during this time period. You gave up your space. You're 100% Correct. Remote. They do SEO for lawyers all over the country. But Price Benowitz, as a functional law firm, still has people going into the office every day. And as we've seen over the last week, ever since everything that happened down in D.C. on the 6th, there is a very stepped up police presence, National Guard presence. There's fences everywhere. I know you're down south, but let's talk a little bit about what's going on in D.C. because it's going to impact business a little, isn't it?
It's crazy. So look, thankfully, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina, those hubs are working business as usual in this new normal. But DC, it's completely effed. It's crazy. We had to send something out the day after the riots at the Capitol where, we had to close the office that's already closed. It's like an extra dagger. The perimeter that's normally for the inaugurations a block beyond our office, meaning you could get to our office, you can't go a block closer. It is now like, something out of a movie where there's a perimeter with armed, military people to get somebody went in to get checks cut the other day. So we're that much of a skeleton staff where somebody's going to physically cut the checks they need. Obviously, this would be a good time to start doing more electronic check cutting. Have still not moved there for certain practical reasons. But somebody had to literally talk their way through a security checkpoint where they were told, okay, fine, we'll let you through today, but don't expect to come by beyond. This was a couple days ago. So, we're basically waiting for this to be over. But yes, it's another month. Another week of lockdown where, every little bit hurts. Now, thank God we've diversified criminal outside of the DC market because in DC itself, there are no arrests that are monetizable for a criminal defense firm because it's basically a military city right now. So not good from a financial point of view, not good for any point of view. But yes, we're trying to run a business in DC right now. Not ideal.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And this is just one of the things. I mean, obviously, we're all going through this corona thing. And throughout the country, there are different levels of lockdowns and that type of thing. And it's interesting when everyone's sort of getting hit. It's certainly something that can be a problem. But one of the things that I think now is a good time for us to think about as we grow our firms is what happens if your block gets hit? And now your office is down. And how does that impact your flow? Because those are the types of things that now that we're in the mindset of thinking remote or thinking how do we grow in those areas, now's a great opportunity to build those systems like we've heard last couple of weeks from Melissa, from Tim, like from Kristen from months ago, or just from everything that we've talked about is start thinking, if I have this problem, how do I solve it, right?
Right. And we're starting to think hey, what was our pain point? We have almost everything out of the office. Check cutting was our last thing. We should probably be doing electronic checks. There are a bunch of reasons that we haven't that go back to sort of fraud that other friends of ours have experienced, and it makes it that much easier. But, when you start handing over keys, but, it's time for us to sort of figure out, hey, what can we do to fully be remote since this is it, right? We have the pandemic and a federal lockdown affecting the block of our firm.
And one of the things to talk about check cutting out of the office. one of the things that you can do if you're worried about fraud is check with your financial institution. There's a product called Positive Pay where at the end of the day, you can actually go in and approve each check that goes against your account. So you can actually have somebody outside of your office be cutting your checks, and then you get to review everything to determine. Obviously, check with your financial institution and all those things. Yeah. But that's certainly something that I should have probably looked into months ago, because I don't live anywhere near my bookkeeper. And so coordinating the getting into to sign checks,
but using the permissions, again, getting that next step of permissions. Here, the check has been issued and it can't go out until you hit it. That would make a lot of sense. And I think, frankly, probably better than what we have right now. There are times when you do things for a reason because you want to physically see each check before it goes out. But now that we are, that's just not realistically an option. We need to figure something out. And this is, I think that's my next call, which will dovetail into our next one, because the same person I'll be calling is the same guy who's going to be looking at PPP.
Exactly. And so the portals are going to open up this week for most of the major institutions. They opened up last week for the minority institutions and some of the community banks in some of the areas that did not get access to PPP round one. And this week, basically everything is opening up. And I believe it's tomorrow that they're going to open up the portal.
It depends. Our bank could be as early as midday today.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, that's good.
TD could be as early as midday today.
So it's interesting because I downloaded the new application. New application basically tracks the old application to somewhat. There's a couple extra bits of information that they're looking for, but it's very similar. So if you filled out a PPP1 application, you should fill out your second one in about 10 minutes. It's, you can just pull them up side by side.
Options as far as which you're doing the 2.5 times of. Is it average of 2019, average of 2020? You probably want your bookkeeper to be running a bunch of different numbers for you to figure out what's most advantageous, assuming that you qualify.
Yeah, and I talked to my banker last week, and he asked me to get him the just a QuickBooks printout of my P&L year over year for the third quarter. He actually said, bring me year over year for first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. Now, I know I don't qualify first quarter. I was up 10%. Second quarter, I was down 6%. Third quarter, it was the big hit, 35% down. Fourth quarter, 31% down. So I have...
It's so funny you say that, because we saw third quarter as our worst quarter. And I'm curious, our accountant was like, what the heck? Why wasn't second? And it's something that's just sort of fascinating when you start to look at the ebbs and flows of our business, different types of businesses, criminal, which I know you're most heavily in, the idea of when does money get earned versus when is it in the door. All of those pieces fascinating, just sort of wondering what we can take away, hopefully when we get back to some sort of positive normal, that, noticing how this stuff flows, and if we can leverage any of that to build our businesses stronger going forward.
Yeah, it was interesting to me because, we do a lot of, no interest payment plans using credit cards and backup credit cards. And so in that second quarter, we certainly took a hit on business, but we had a number of weeks and months with the back end of those payment plans coming in.
Payment plans and money being earned,
Right, because
where you're doing work, you're earning money with money that was already escrowed. The question becomes, when the money doesn't hit in the second quarter, because things are, that was sort of the most devastating as far as the economy goes. We really felt it in the third quarter, which is also sort of scary that you don't really know what's about to, being aware of what is about to happen. It's very easy to dig your head in the sand because that second quarter, you didn't feel it as much. You knew it was coming intellectually, but sort of trying to make sure that we take those lessons learned so that when there is a downturn in the future, that we're able to sort of forecast what that means for future quarters.
Yeah, it's funny. Our friend John Fisher posted about how somebody who had recently settled a 7-figure case should probably have 6 months of reserves. And I said, you know what? Based on everything I know now, I'm going to aim to try to get to a year reserves, which is mind-blowing to,
Well, but look, it depends what you define as reserves. If you're a solo practitioner, it's your savings account. And I know that goes against everything that's being said, but what is the number that's there? There's a psychological factor as far as what you put in actual savings versus what do you know that you've set aside? I think and again, much longer conversation for another day, but how do you view the money that's there? Because there are a lot of very thoughtful people that talk about profit first and things along those lines. You're pulling the money out, and I'm always torn. I like the idea of having more money there. My law partner is very much more like, hey, we got to pay ourselves, because if you don't, it doesn't ever happen. And it's like, it's one of those things that should happen no matter what. But I feel like there's got to be an in-between where you're leaving enough reserves so it's there, but at the same time, you also have intellectually the understanding that you better not be spending every penny sitting there, that you have a personal savings if you're the sole proprietor, because at the end of the day, if this thing does go for a year, it's and you want to continue going, it's going to come out of your pocket.
Right. And there is this new strain that is, substantially more contagious. And I talked to some friends who live in Ireland, some Irish nationals that I've met over the years, and they said that it's just mind-blowing how contagious it is. And if it really takes root here, which it sounds like it's doing, you're going to see some explosive growth in who's getting it and how it's being transmitted. And that could turn into something. And, the thing that's troubling to me is there are some jurisdictions that have been phenomenal in how they've approached the practice of law and how they're getting things done. My home state has done a terrible job. I've been very outspoken about it. And they almost are like, well, we're just going to try to get back to the way it was before, not recognizing that, I think, and a number of people have said, that this cycle of, the last year has compressed 10 years worth of how things are going to be handled by just ordinary citizens. You've got 90-year-olds who are making Zoom calls now. Last night, it's funny. Last night we wanted to get some pizza, and because just didn't feel like cooking after working all weekend, getting the house back in order after the renovation that we had, and that's something I want to talk to you a little bit about. But the thing that was crazy to me is, as I'm sitting there with my phone and I'm talking to my wife and we're trying to order, we're looking for our local pizza shop and their website was down and we couldn't place an order on the web. And we decided to go to a secondary pizza shop, not our number one, but the backup that we would go to, because we didn't want to have to talk to anybody.
Well, it's so funny. My wife and I go back and forth. She lives in your digital world. She doesn't. She wants to be able to click. And you know what? Right now, the margins we make our money on are made by phone. We don't sign our clients up through a web form. We do it by speaking to them, providing value, and getting them in. And it's really funny. She would do exactly that. And my attitude is, no, I want that pizza. And frankly, if the web is down, it probably will be done quicker and, it'll be done right and faster because they have less business when that's down. So I'll make that phone call. But, as you know, I'm a phone guy and
you love to talk. You call me all the time. And I'm like, why don't you just text me, Seth? The best time to call me is text message. That's the way I think. But
internally, I've had to work with my millennial team. They like the text. And I think I'm bending in that direction. I want to take this further down, which is, you're talking about Connecticut not handling well. It is really interesting to be in Florida during this, right? We live in our little place and we don't leave a lot, but I was on the west coast of Florida, down in like Clearwater, that area down to Sarasota. And it was amazing that even compared to South Florida, the wearing of masks, I had not seen this before, as a political statement, meaning if you wore the mask, it was really making a political statement. And the idea that had this not been politicized, had everybody just said, hey, just like World War II, we got to get through this. This is a battle for our economy and for our nation. And everybody wore a mask. The numbers would just something based on what we know right now, the numbers would be so much less. Like whether you're opening your office, let's put that aside for a second. The fact that bars and restaurants are wide open and there's not even a pretense that there's a actual pandemic going on, it is one of those. It's one of those things I can't comprehend. So every time you say Connecticut's not handling well, I see behaviors down here that if tweaked, if we could take the politicalization out of it and follow science, how much better off we'd actually be.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, what we're going to do right now, folks, is take a quick break so you can hear from our sponsors. And when we get back, Seth is going to try talking me off a ledge because I want to go nuclear on a vendor of mine, and I want to get some advice from Seth. So hang tight for 1 minute. We'll be right back with this edition of Maximum Growth Live.
In this world today, if you want to grow your business, you want to grow your firm, you want to take on more cases and make a bigger impact, you have to have a digital blueprint. Statistically, throughout the time that we've been working with Blue Shark Digital, our law firm, the Atlanta Divorce Law Group, grew over 1,400%. They truly understand where we're headed and how we want to get there. I have a team in Blue Shark Digital that I feel like has my back.
Hi, I'm Jay Ruane, one of the founders of FirmFlex and a practicing attorney for over 20 years. Anyone who knows me knows how my firm runs on the systems we create, and it has allowed us to flourish, even in tough times. I spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars until I finally figured out a way to engage my audience and drive top-of-mind awareness with social media. And what did I do once I figured it all out? I built a system for it, and now you can put that system to work for you. You see, we took the hard part, creating the content and finding the images, and made it foolproof. Every day you will have curated social media topics to post designed to make your firm constantly remind your audience about your firm, what you do, and how you can help. And the best part, you don't even need to hire a dedicated social media person to do this for you. In fact, you don't even need to hire anyone new. We designed the system to make it easy for you to delegate to your receptionist, assistant, or paralegal and have them execute solid social media for you in just 5 minutes a day. It's like having a content writer, researcher, and graphics designer at a fraction of the price it would cost to hire in-house. Sign up today for the Social Super System and start building your brand where your clients already are, on social media. Okay, Seth, we're back, and I need your help with something. I know I've mentioned it a couple times on the show. I just recently went through a very long and involved kitchen renovation. For the most part, it came out great. We're very happy with what we got. The people that we worked with are great. However, we've had some problems with one of our vendors, and what we're having here is something that a lot of our audience might experience in the course of running their practice. You know, you run into a vendor, they promise you the world, they don't deliver something. So what happened to us is that we had a vendor who decided that they were going to unilaterally change the dimensions of cabinets that we paid for, and when we discovered them prior to the final steps of putting on the countertop, we contacted the vendor and said, hey, these aren't right, and we're told, no, it's fine, I can fix this, go ahead and keep going with your project. So we installed a very expensive slab of quartz on our countertop, and now that's locked in. And then that caused me to take a look a little deeper, and I did some measurements of the other cabinets, and what was supposed to be some 42-inch cabinets are now 39-inch cabinets. And so it's clear that we got gypped, right? I mean, that's what happened.
You're telling me a contractor ripped you off? There's no way.
Yeah. So I'm a little fired up about it because, well, for a million reasons I'm fired up about it. But this guy doesn't really want to make good on anything. So, of course, my first thing is, well, fine, I'll sue him. I'm a lawyer. It doesn't cost me anything to put something into suit. It's going to cost me a little bit of time. I know you would tell me to outsource it, and I thought about that, and I'll bring that up next.
Outsource the suit?
Hire a lawyer to sue on my behalf.
Right. And look, I've made an entire profession out of this. It's similar to when a friend comes to me want to get divorced, and I'm like, hey, lock yourself in a room, figure out, get the basics of the law, come up with a number, because otherwise you're going to spend the kid's college fund. Literally, it was with Mark O'Mara just last week, and we had this exact discussion. He gives this talk to every potential client that comes into his firm. I do it to friends and family all the time. I'm going to give you the same talk, which is you're not suing this guy. Like, you could, but there's, like, in general, I spent time, sadly, investing in Baltimore real estate. Note to self, not a very stable place to be. But we got ripped off more times than I can tell you. And what I learned was eventually, like, you basically, unless you're at an Uber level where you're dealing with a repeat player that has a Yelp profile they care about, right? Unless you're dealing with somebody that's playing in the highest level, in general, when you walk in with a contractor, there is no recourse. It sucks. Well, of course there is, but I'm talking practically for a bunch of reasons, both your personal security as well as will you get any money out of it? And are you putting good money after bad? And that with everything, there's a dollar value, right? So if the cabinet is not what you wanted and it's lesser, there is something. And the question is, how close to that dollar value can you get? Because when you go beyond it, when you start suing and you start going to court, you know this. If somebody came to you and said, I have a $10,000 issue, what should I do? You're like, settle it, because you're going to spend more than $10,000 on real lawyers to get that done, especially if it's not a corporation where the person could hide assets. It could be years before you get anything. I'm still sitting there with a judgment from a landlord that didn't return a security deposit. It went all the way to the highest appeals court in DC. I'm sitting with I think what turned out to be a pretty substantial judgment. I'm never going to get it. Could I get it? If I put $120,000, I could get my 60. But the problem is that there is a reality that we live in. And look, frankly, I talk to people about reviews all the time. One of the things that I do is advise people, neighbors and friends and family, where you really are. It's not judgment proof, where basically you're in no man's land. And when you're in no man's land, you get what you can, you get what you get, you don't get upset. Again, I'm not saying that you don't push. I'm not saying you don't prod, but this isn't going to be a litigation. It's going to be a settlement of something because you have bigger fish to fry. You want to be able to turn the firm around for 2021, and you want every ounce of energy in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was planning on doing the lawsuit myself just because I wanted to depose the guy and see him squirm and, and get him to admit that 39 inches does not equal 42 inches, stuff like that. And I was all fired up. And then last night I was like, well, in my state, contractors violations of the Home Improvement Act, you are allowed to get attorney's fees. So I could send this out to another lawyer who I know would get paid if it went the distance and there was a judgment on it. So that's really where I'm at today.
And my feeling is, until that attorney says I'll take it on a contingency fee, it's demonstrating the value of that case. And right now, you're not using it as an emotional tool. It's, hey, you got something, it's not right. What's it worth to, if you need some extra storage space because they didn't do it right, what's it cost to put that in? And you push hard, but you know that you're going to hit and move on because life is coming at you, and you got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah. So that's actually something that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today as well. And it's in the personal injury space. Now, I'm not in the personal injury space, but I have a lot of friends in the personal injury space. I know you've got a whole division of Price Benowitz that does personal injury space stuff. And last year, say April through probably the end of July, most of August even probably, there was a significant nationwide reduction in car and auto accidents as a result of just people staying at home. Certainly a lot more on the East Coast where you and I are, but really, it impacted everybody. And the problem with PI as opposed to criminal, where, criminal, you get arrested, you usually have a court date pretty soon, and there's some urgency to it. With PI, all those cases in the PI pipeline that settled in the last year, they had happened in 2018 and 2017, and so we're gonna run into a problem for the PI lawyers in a year from now, when all of a sudden their inventory is going to drop to near nothing or much lower. How does a business anticipate that and get ahead of it now, so that you're not suffering a tremendous drop at that point in your revenues?
And look, that's a great question. We talked a lot about this when we did our shows right as the pandemic started. Things were still settling. The question is, there was a period where it was really, really low. And I'm starting to see it. Particularly some Southern PI friends, really people who've scaled, who are counting on everything to be coming in. It's definitely there. I think that it's gotten even further muddled in that not only are you going to see a dry spell for new cases from that period, moving along the conveyor belt to settlement, but we now have what I'm hearing more and more, and again, this gets louder and louder, is the larger cases are not being settled either because there's no threat of litigation. So the little cases continue to move, but you're going to have this period where you didn't have any moving along that sort of conveyor belt of sorts. And secondly, you have the larger cases where the insurance company like, yeah, you know what? Let's wait till there's a jury trial. That could be 2-3 years from now. And so that double whammy, definitely there. I'm seeing in the PI space, there's been on the marketing side, this sort of like euphoria over LSAs for good reason. There was a really nice pop. It's not going to last forever. I tell people to take as much advantage as they can. And so ironically, I feel like that was like the perfect timing when people were like, where do I turn next? Where a bunch of stuff came in that probably wouldn't have ordinarily, people that either not playing PPC or not playing it much, all of a sudden had the opportunity with this very inexpensive paid search to do it. And that's what I'm talking about this week during PubCon. But the idea is, I feel like, yes, it is a hot mess. And you're seeing people looking around saying, hey, I just saw a major player out of Baltimore who's been a multi-generational player in the PI space laying some people off. And that was like a wake-up call. It's like, okay, what's going on here? I think that we are modestly sized, that we are continuing to row, but it depends, what level you're counting on. And I think that, as we talked before, depending on whether you focus on the smallest cases, the middle, largest, and how you sort of what mix you have of settlements versus litigation, settlements based forced on litigation or litigation itself, that will determine how badly this upsets the apple cart for your firm.
Yeah, it's interesting because us frontliners, the criminal defense firms that we talked about are a lot like restaurants, high turnover, lower margins, but just consistent. People need us, right? But it's the PI people that I think are going to be paying a 5 to 10 year impact of coronavirus, because even those bigger cases didn't come in, and those things that get litigated that take 3, 4, 5 years, just didn't happen.
Well, right, but I'm hoping that's not. I would think, I look at it differently. I think the question is, how long is that cycle? That in theory, everything should go back to normal, but the issue will become, do the insurance company, every time there's a change, you have to recalibrate as to how they view things. And we've seen this within the insurance industry, right? They go from settling a lot of stuff, keeping their legal expenses low, to, hey, we're gonna start using outside counsel and try to push it off. We're gonna try everything. Then that gets expensive. They bring it in house. So there's a sort of ebb and flow of it. And as any business, what we pay for is stability. And right now, there's just not a lot of it.
It's interesting that we talk about this because, there are a lot of captive law firms that do insurance defense work that have high salaried people and without trials, and they've had 9 months to work up their files. I can see the insurance company saying, hey, we're dialing it back, man. What happens to those firms?
Well, the outside counsel, that's exactly right. So at the beginning, we saw the ability to get some stuff done because those outside counsels wanted to get billable hours, to still do, frankly. And so that is one of those areas that for the savvy plaintiff's lawyer, you're going to be looking and saying, hey, where do I see people who are still needing the hours to do the work and pushing there? Those relationships are key right now. Figuring out who does need those hours, who will push these cases forward in a time when, but for that impetus, you might not get stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. So that really covers all the topics that I wanted to talk about today. Seth, is there anything else that there's one more thing. See, it was a little trick, right? I was doing something. I tried to do the whole Apple thing, Steve Jobs. Hey, there's one more thing. So what I wanted to let people know is that, I have a love for systems, and I've been searching online, looking for other people who love systems the way I love systems, and there really isn't a community of people who are into systems the same way that I am, where, I could sit down and think through, it's like a chess game, right? I'll think through all the different machinations of what a systems is. I know John Fisher's got his book. Nancy Cavey's actually got one coming out soon about the systems needed to run a Social Security firm, right? And I'm really looking forward forward to Nancy's book. But I wanted to do something for the people that are out there, people who are on Facebook watching our show, maybe people who are part of the Maximum Lawyer community, people who are hearing this as part of the podcast. And of course, you can always hear us syndicated on Maximum Lawyer Media through the Maximum Lawyer podcast, or through our own standalone podcast available on any of the podcasting platforms. But I did something over the last week that I want to invite Seth, you to be part of. I created a Facebook group that is focused only on building systems for your law firm. And my vision for this group is to not talk about anything else other than here's a model system for this. So, for example, my very first post in the group was, here's a system for building a podcast for your law firm. Right? Because I know a lot of people want to do a podcast. So I took our in-house podcasting system, I stripped out our particulars, but made it very simple for you to be able to go in, see all the things that you need to do, the email addresses that you need to set up to forward certain things, how to hire somebody for the job. I'm going to attach to the post that I put up our law clerk job description that we put out there. We got a great one working for us now. We're actually in our third law clerk of our own podcast.
And what I love about it is pretty much every episode we've had a guest on, most of they have something to contribute to this. It's right. Basically they're each bringing that piece, whether it was Tim this week or somebody the prior week. It's basically everybody who is out there that's gotten their firm beyond themselves has put these pieces in place. So I love the idea that we can talk about growth and systems and figure out a repository for people to go to sort of help them grow. Because look, Blue Shark, that's what it is. I had a little sign on my desk. It's an HR play. We put systems in place, and that's the only reason that we can leverage labor to do what we do on a daily basis.
Right. So the name of the Facebook group is called Systemizing Your Law Firm for Growth. And I would invite everybody who's listening, either today, tomorrow, in 2 years, when you hear this replay, be sure to join our group and share with us the systems that you've created. There'll be dialogue. We're going to have some moderators who are going to be able to steer the conversation. My brother, who you knew does a lot of the technical stuff in FirmFlex, is going to be helping with some systems for automating your marketing stuff, which will be great. What I'm essentially doing is I'm taking my 1,600 systems that I've used to get my firm to the next level. I'm going in, I'm sort of pulling out the stuff that is not necessarily proprietary, but like personal emails that we don't need to share outside our law firm, and just leaving it blank and allowing people to pull in. But every week I'm going to be sharing more and more systems that people can drop into their own manuals. We'll be doing reviews of all of Trainual and Tetra and all the different platforms that are out there for documenting your systems. And it's going to be a discussion group just about systems. So if you come into the group and you ask for a referral, you're going to be shut down because no one's giving you a referral here, folks. It is all about systems. So I invite you to join our group on Facebook called Systemizing Your Law Firm for Growth. There's going to be a lot of great people in it and a lot of freebie systems that you can take and implement in your own practice. So that's my big announcement for today, Seth. If everybody stayed with us to the end, I hope they got something out of it, and hopefully we'll see a bunch of people that are joining the group. We're in our infancy right now. There are 3 members. So we're going to be growing. We're going to see where it takes us, but I'm excited for the growth of that. And you know me, I love to talk about it. So I'll be actively moderating and contributing systems every week in that group. So join us, won't you? Join us, won't you? And will you also join us, Seth, this Thursday? Today is Tuesday. It's a wonderful day in America. And on Thursday, we're going to have a brand new president and another brand new show of Maximum Growth Live. So I would invite everybody to join us this coming Thursday. But for now, Seth, I got nothing else. You got anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm just excited. This Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be partaking in the PubCon presentation. That should be a lot of fun, and look forward to talking about that on Thursday.
Yeah, I signed up. I can't wait to watch you. I'll be heckling you from afar, but I'm really excited to be able to watch you. And I know you have a lot to offer people. And if you have some free time over the next couple of days, be sure to sign up to participate in the PubCon virtual event because you're going to get a lot of great knowledge from PubCon. I'm looking forward. in October. I'm hoping you and I are together in Las Vegas, having lunch at In-N-Out and at a PubCon actual event. Hopefully we can make it there this year because of everything that's happened. I'm looking forward to getting back to Vegas with you, Seth. But for now, we're going to leave this show right now. Have a wonderful day, folks. Have a great day. My name is Jay Ruane. I am the CEO of FirmFlex Social Media Marketing for Lawyers. He is Seth Price, Blue Shark Digital, SEO for law firms and others, as well as the managing partner of Price Benowitz, your DC, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina law firm, and we are Maximum Growth Live. Thank you for being with us. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on Thursday.